You might be wondering for your UPSC prep how to remember which landmark cases reshaped fundamental rights and constitutional amendment powers, and which details actually matter in the exam. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about the sequence, the core idea of each case, and the exact exam angles to use in your answers. Think of the Constitution as a living tree, and these cases as seasons that force the tree to bend, prune, or grow in new directions. First, let's walk through a simple timeline so you can visualize cause and effect rather than memorize isolated names. Ramesh Thapar, 1950, was the Crossroads case, where the Supreme Court said freedom of speech includes freedom of circulation, striking down a Madras ban under public order grounds. The immediate impact was that ordinary local disturbances could not be used casually to restrict press freedom. And this prompted the First Amendment in 1951 to add public order as a reasonable restriction. A.K. Gopalan, also 1950, narrowed Article 21 by adopting a textual approach and saying personal liberty means bodily liberty, and that Article 21 protects only against executive action. This restrictive reading stayed until Maneka Gandhi broadened Article 21 in 1978. So for UPSC answers, link Gopalan to the evolution of Article 21 interpretation. Champakam Dorerajan, 1951, struck down communal reservations in college admissions as violating Articles 15 and 29, reinforcing that directive principles cannot override fundamental rights. The political response was the insertion of Clause 4 in Article 15 via the First Amendment, showing how judicial decisions often trigger constitutional amendments. Shankari Prasad, 1951, held that Parliament could amend fundamental rights under Article 368 and that such amendments were not law under Article 13(2), a ruling later challenged. Berubari Union, 1960, clarified that ceding Indian territory to a foreign state requires a constitutional amendment under Article 368 rather than an ordinary law under Article 3. The practical lesson: identify whether a change affects the first schedule of fundamental features, because the remedy is often Article 368 amendment, not simple legislation. Nanavati 1961 is less about constitutional doctrine and more about criminal procedure and the jury system. But it's exam useful as an example of social impact of judicial outcomes. Then came I.C. Golaknath, 1967, which reversed Shankari Prasad and said Parliament could not abridge fundamental rights by amendment. Crucially, it treated constitutional amendments as law under Article 13. Golaknath produced a big political reaction. The 24th Amendment in 1971 attempted to restore Parliament's amending power. So, always link cases to the amendment that followed in your answers. Keshwananda Bharti, 1973, is the pivot. The Supreme Court held Parliament can amend any provision but not the basic structure of the Constitution, creating the Basic Structure Doctrine. Use a simple analogy. Parliament can remodel the house, but it cannot demolish the foundation. That foundation is the basic structure. The Keshavananda judgment is the single most testable idea in constitutional law for UPSC. So frame your mains answer around what elements of the basic structure might be affected by an amendment. Indira Nehru Gandhi versus Raj Narayan, 1975, reaffirmed basic structure and struck down parts of the 39th Amendment that tried to put certain election disputes beyond judicial review. This case shows the limits of amending power when an amendment threatens core democratic features like free judicial scrutiny of elections. ADM Jabalpur, 1976, the habeas corpus case, is infamous. During emergency, the court held suspended Article 21 meant no one could move habeas corpus challenging detention, a ruling now treated as flawed. Remember Jabalpur as a cautionary tale. Judiciary can fail under political pressure, and that failure led to the 44th Amendment, which protected enforcement of Article 21 during emergencies. Now let's connect the dots. Early cases in 1950s shaped basic rights and triggered amendments. The 1967-73 period saw tug-of-war between Parliament and the court. Emergency-era cases and amendments tested the balance. A quick visual. 1950s. Expansion and restriction cases. 1967. Golaknath reversing expansion. 1973. Keshwananda building the basic structure. 1975-76. Indira and Jabalpur exposing limits and prompting later fixes. For UPSC Prelims, pick facts like year, article, and one-line principle. For mains, write cause-effect, mention the amendment that followed, and evaluate implications for democracy. A useful memory trick is to group cases by theme. Freedom of expression and press. Personal liberty, Article 21. Parliament's amending power. Territorial adjustments, and emergency jurisprudence. When you answer a mains question, start with the rule announced, give a short fact context, then explain impact and linked amendment, and close with a balanced evaluation. That structure scores. Let me give you one final key idea that most UPSC aspirants miss. The doctrine of basic structure is not a fixed checklist. It is a living, case-by-case test the court uses to protect constitutional identity. So don't memorize an exhaustive list. Instead, train to ask in every amendment challenge, does this alter the constitutional foundation, the basic structure, and why? To recap simply, Ramesh Thappar protected circulation for speech. Gopalan narrowed Article 21. Golaknath restricted amendments. Keshavanand created the basic structure. Indira and Jabalpur exposed tensions during emergency. Also remember the legislative responses. First, 24th, 42nd, and 44th Amendments, and the way Parliament tried to reclaim power after judicial checks. If you build answers with these cause-effect chains and always tie cases to the relevant article and amendment, both prelims and mains become far less scary. Keep practicing by drafting 2-line summaries of each case and 1 line on the amendment that followed. This habit converts dry facts into exam ammunition. Thanks for sticking with this timeline. You've just turned a confusing list into a story of legal push and pull that is easy to recall under exam stress. If you want ready-made one-page summaries, model answers, and quizzes to test recall, continue learning with EduRev, where these cases are bundled for UPSC preparation. Stay curious, practice answer structure, and remember to ask whether a change touches the Constitution's foundation. That question will guide your best answers.